Society loves to push this comforting narrative that the only thing separating the rich from the poor is a lucky break, a massive inheritance, or being at the right place at the perfect time. People look at the bank accounts, the houses, and the cars, and they assume the money is the actual difference. But here is the brutal truth that nobody wants to admit. Wealth does not create the mindset creates the wealth. If you take all the money away from a self-made billionaire, give it a few years, and they will be right back at the top. But if you hand millions to someone with a poor mindset, they will inevitably lose it all and end up exactly where they started. The difference isn't in their wallets. It is entirely in the invisible operating system running inside their heads. Today, we are tearing down the illusions. We're going to break down the exact psychological frameworks, the daily habits, and the core beliefs that separate the financial elite from the people who stay broken forever. Welcome to ALUX, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. Number 1. Poor minds focus on saving. Rich minds focus on earning. Look, okay, budgeting is a fundamental skill, but poor minds treat the savings account like it is the ultimate destination. They spend hours clipping coupons, driving across town to save $3 on gas, and cutting out their daily coffee, thinking that extreme frugality is going to somehow make them millionaires. But the math just doesn't work that way. You cannot shrink your way to massive wealth. Rich minds understand that there is a hard mathematical limit to how much you can save, but there is absolutely no limit to how much you can earn. Instead of wasting cognitive energy trying to save $10, they channel all of that focus into figuring out how to make $10,000. They don't obsess over cutting costs. They obsess over expanding their income capacity. Number 2. Poor minds talk about people. Rich minds talk about ideas. You can accurately predict someone's financial future just by listening to what they talk about when they are relaxing with their friends. Poor minds default to gossip. They talk about their coworkers, celebrity drama, who is dating who, and what somebody else did wrong. They live in a reactive state, consumed by the petty details of other people's lives. Rich minds are utterly bored by gossip. When they sit down together, they talk about market trends, emerging technologies, business acquisitions, and future systems. They discuss ideas that hold actual value. They understand that talking about other people keeps you stuck in the present, while talking about ideas actively builds the future. Number 3. Poor minds fear failure. Rich minds fear stagnation. To a poor mind, making a mistake is the ultimate embarrassment. The traditional school system taught them that failure gets you a bad grade and makes you look stupid. So, they avoid starting the business, making the investment, or taking the risk because they are terrified of looking foolish if it doesn't work out. Rich minds completely bypass this fear. To them, failure isn't a permanent identity. It is simply a data point. They know that if they launch a product and it fails, they just bought a highly valuable lesson on what not to do next time. The only thing a rich mind is truly terrified of is staying in the exact same place year after year. They would rather fail forward 10 times than succeed at being completely average. Number 4. Poor minds resent success. Rich minds study it. When a poor mind sees someone driving a luxury car or living in a massive home, their immediate default is resentment. They assume the person must be corrupt, that they got lucky, or that they exploited someone to get there. They use this bitterness as a shield to protect their own ego, because if the rich person's success is illegitimate, then their own lack of success is justified. Rich minds don't do this. When they see someone winning at a massive scale, their immediate reaction is intense curiosity. They want to know the blueprint. They ask, what problems did this person solve? What systems did they build? How can I apply that exact same logic to my own life? They replace envy with education. And, you know, shifting your brain from a state of quiet resentment to a state of aggressive curiosity is incredibly difficult if you don't have the right environment. You need to be exposed to people who have actually built what you want to build. And that is exactly why we created the Arionics app. We built a private ecosystem specifically designed to upgrade your mental operating system. Inside the app, you'll find daily coaching sessions and elite masterclasses from world-renowned experts, self-made millionaires, and visionary entrepreneurs. They are actively breaking down the exact frameworks they use to scale businesses, master their emotions, and build generational wealth. It is a high-performance mentor right in your pocket. And because you are serious enough to be here today, if you download the Arianix app and scan the QR code on screen right now, you will get an exclusive 25% off your yearly membership. Invest in your own mind, my friend, because that is the one asset that pays the highest dividends. I'll see you on the inside. All right, moving on. Number 5. Poor minds seek entertainment. Rich minds seek education. At the end of a long workday, the poor mind seeks an escape from reality. They plop down on the couch, binge-watch 5 episodes of a random sitcom, and endlessly scroll through short-form videos to numb their brain. They are optimizing for temporary relief. The rich mind uses that exact same evening completely differently. They don't want to escape their reality. They want to build a reality they don't need to escape from. They spend those hours reading financial literature, listening to strategic podcasts, or building a side business. They know that while the masses are distracting themselves, the elite are preparing themselves. You cannot spend 4 hours a day consuming trash and expect to outcompete someone who spends 4 hours a day sharpening their sword. Number 6. Poor minds sell their time. Rich minds build leverage. This is the ultimate separator. A poor mind operates on the belief that the only way to make money is to clock in, work for an hour, and get paid for an hour. They are trapped in a linear equation, which means their earning potential is permanently capped by their physical exhaustion. Rich minds refuse to play the linear game. They use their time to build systems that have leverage. They write software, they create media, they buy cash-flowing real estate, or they hire incredibly smart people to run operations for them. They build machines that print capital while they are fast asleep. They decouple their income from their physical presence because they know that true wealth is not an hourly wage. It is scalable equity. Number 7. Poor minds blame their circumstances. Rich minds take extreme ownership. If you ask a poor mind why they aren't succeeding, they will hand you a fully rehearsed list of excuses. It is the economy, it is the government, it is their boss, or the fact that they weren't born into a wealthy family. They play the victim card because it relieves them of the responsibility to change. Rich minds operate on the principle of extreme ownership. Even if the economy crashes, even if a partner betrays them, they take full responsibility for their position. They look at the board, accept the hand they were dealt, and immediately ask, "What is my next move?" They do not waste a single ounce of cognitive energy complaining about the rules of the game. They simply focus on figuring out how to win it. Number 8. Poor minds play it safe. Rich minds take asymmetric risks. The traditional path programs the poor mind to worship safety. Get a secure job, lock in the modest pension, and avoid anything that looks unpredictable. But in a rapidly shifting global economy, clinging to a false sense of security is actually the most dangerous thing you can do. Rich minds hunt for asymmetric risk. This means they look for investments or business opportunities where the absolute worst-case scenario is losing a small, manageable amount of capital. But the best-case scenario is an exponential, life-altering return. They are perfectly comfortable rolling the dice when the math is wildly tilted in their favor. They know that avoiding risk entirely guarantees a life of total mediocrity. Number 9. Poor minds believe they already know enough. Rich minds are permanent students. The moment a poor mind walks across the graduation stage and grabs their diploma, they consider their education officially finished. They stop reading, they stop evolving, and they just repeat the same year of experience for the next 40 years. Rich minds are deeply, almost aggressively curious. They assume that what made them successful yesterday might be completely obsolete tomorrow. They hire executive coaches. They attend high-level masterminds, and they are constantly upgrading their intellectual software to adapt to new technologies. They know that the marketplace only rewards relevance, and the only way to stay relevant is to be a perpetual student of the game. Number 10, poor minds see money as a reward. Rich minds see money as a tool. When a poor mind gets a sudden influx of cash, like a bonus or a tax refund, they view it as a reward for their hard work. Their immediate instinct is to exchange that money for comfort or status. They buy designer shoes, upgrade the car, or take a flashy vacation. They consume their surplus. When a rich mind generates a surplus, they don't see a reward, they see a platoon of soldiers. They immediately draft that capital and deploy it into the marketplace to capture more territory. They buy assets, equities, and real estate. They use their money to buy back their time and multiply their options. They force their money to put on a hard hat and go to work. Number 11, poor minds associate with their past. Rich minds associate with their future. If you hang around a poor mind, you will constantly hear them talking about the good old days. They talk about their high school achievements, past relationships, or how things used to be. They are mentally anchored to a timeline that no longer exists. Rich minds are entirely future-oriented. They are building a vision of reality that hasn't happened yet, and they align all of their current actions with that future state. They surround themselves with people who force them to level up, cutting ties with old environments that no longer serve their ambition. They do not let their history dictate their destiny. Number 12. Poor minds value cheapness. Rich minds value time. A poor mind will spend 3 hours cleaning their own house just to save $100. They will wait in a massive line on a Saturday afternoon just to get a free promotional item. They view their time as worthless, so they trade it to save a few pennies. Rich minds know that time is the only truly non-renewable resource in the universe. You can always make another $1 million, but you can never buy back an hour of your life. So, they gladly overpay for convenience. They hire assistants, they use premium services, and they buy speed. They spend their money to protect their time, ensuring their mental bandwidth is reserved purely for high-impact, wealth-generating decisions. Number 13. Poor minds think in either, or rich minds think in both. The poor mind operates from a deeply ingrained state of scarcity. They believe that you can either have a successful career or a happy family. You can either be rich or be a good person. They accept these false limitations without ever questioning them. The rich mind operates from a state of total abundance. When faced with a difficult choice between two great things, they do not compromise. They ask the ultimate power question: how can I have both? This forces their brain to bypass traditional logic and get creative, building a lifestyle where they refuse to sacrifice their health for their wealth or their family for their empire. Number 14, poor minds kit when it gets hard, rich minds kit when it stops making sense. When a poor mind hits a massive roadblock, their emotional threshold breaks. They say, "This is too difficult. It must not be meant for me," and they abandon the project entirely. They let temporary discomfort dictate their long-term strategy. Rich minds are perfectly comfortable with pain, stress, and overwhelming odds. They never quit just because something is difficult. The only time a rich mind walks away from a venture is when the math stops working, when the market shifts, or when the opportunity cost becomes too high. They kit strategically, entirely devoid of emotion, so they can deploy their resources into a better vehicle. Number 15. Poor minds want to look rich. Rich minds want to be wealthy. The poor mind is obsessed with the performance of wealth. They want the loud logs, the VIP tables, and the validation of total strangers on the internet. They buy depreciating liabilities to convince the world they are important, leaving their actual bank accounts dangerously fragile. Rich minds couldn't care less about your validation. They don't want to look rich. They want absolute, unshakable sovereignty. They want the freedom to wake up on a Tuesday and fly to another continent without asking a boss for permission. They build quiet, invisible fortresses of assets, legal structures, and compounding investments. They optimize for total autonomy. And since you have proven that you have the focus and the discipline to stick with us until the very end, Aluxer, here is your secret bonus. Rich minds are completely comfortable being misunderstood. When you start making the decisions required to build an extraordinary life, the average people around you are going to think you are crazy. They will call you obsessed. They will say you work too hard, and they will try to pull you back into the comfort of mediocrity. The poor mind caves to this peer pressure because they need to be liked. The rich mind embraces isolation. They know that you cannot live an unconventional life if you are terrified of stepping outside of convention. They are perfectly willing to be misunderstood by the masses for a few years, so they can live a reality that the masses will never get to experience. So, we want to hear from you. Which of these mindset shifts do you think is the hardest to implement in today's world? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one. Thanks for spending some time with us today, Aluxer. Keep building, keep growing, and we'll see you back here next time. Until then, take care.